welcome. I'm so pleased that you're able to join us today for this, for our webinar on social enterprise as faith in action in the time of COVID-19 and beyond. My name is Genieve Blackwell, Bishop Genieve. I'm an assistant bishop in the Anglican Diocese of Melbourne. And really, of course, everyone's aware of the health crisis, the pandemic that we've been experiencing. And officially now, Australia is in recession, the deepest recession since the Depression. And as the economic impact of the pandemic flows through to increased unemployment and financial stress, very topical, just having had the budget this week, the contribution of social enterprise employment programs and connections with the business community and so on will be increasingly important to our church's ministry and mission. Many people will be looking for pathways to paid employment or to meaningful volunteer work. And the Anglican Diocese of Melbourne, Anglicare Victoria, Benetas and the Brotherhood of St Laurence are hosting this webinar to encourage parishes and other community groups to think about and explore these programs and other possibilities for our community engagement and work for care and justice. The way the day is, the 2 hours are going to work is simply, we're going to have a series of presentations, and then we're going to have some breakout rooms to talk about those, and then we're going to come back to a panel. So that's the basic structure for today. And I'm now going to introduce Emma Gale. Again, before I do that, I will just say, if you're not on mute already, please do mute. I won't add another responsibility to Kathleen to be muting everyone. I will let people take that responsibility. It makes a great difference if you do. But I'm now going to introduce Emma Gale, who is the program coordinator for the Stepping Stones to Small Business Brotherhood of St Laurence. And Stepping Stones to Small Business is a micro enterprise program that offers mentoring, training and support to women from refugee, migrant and asylum seeker backgrounds. And it's wonderful today that we have 3 of those women also presenting. I will let Emma introduce them, but it's wonderful that they're also presenting this part of our webinar. So let's begin.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Bishop Genieve. I just want to welcome you all. My name's Emma. I'm from the Stepping Stones program. So as Bishop Genieve mentioned, we provide support to women from migrant, refugee and asylum seeker backgrounds who are looking at starting small business. And sometimes their pathways might lead to also employment or study. So we also support with those areas as well. And the objective of our program is to promote social connection, promote informed choice and economic dignity for the women that are attending our program and who are looking at starting a small business, including social enterprise. Our program aims to build participant strengths by providing training and skills development in business, also financial literacy, education, mentoring, and providing a wraparound support for women from refugee and migrant backgrounds. So just on to the next slide. This gives a bit of an overview of the program. So we offer a empowerment pathways program and a small business course that women can attend, and we offer free childcare for them to be able to attend and reduce those barriers to access. Following the course, we offer a range of different workshops, mentoring, as we mentioned before, opportunity for microfinance, so no interest loans, as well as opportunities for them to sell their products or promote their businesses through different events and markets. So just on to the next slide. My role in particular in the program is supporting the mentoring. So I recruit and train volunteers who matched with our participants in the program, and we offer one-to-one mentoring, short-term mentoring as well, or sometimes women can be matched with a mentor for up to 12 months. We also, as part of the mentoring, it's an opportunity for the women to work on their business plans, goal setting, networking, marketing, so forth. And with our wonderful volunteer mentors who are incredible support to the program, we offer them professional development, community of practice, and ongoing opportunities as well. So I'd like to introduce STEM Catalyst, who will talk to you about their business journey, and they've been part of our Stepping Stones program. So over to you, Arjamand.
Yeah, thank you very much, Emma, and thank you, Bishop Genieve. Thanks everyone for giving me a chance to come up and present STEM Catalyst. I'm sorry I could not, my team members are not able to be here, but my name is Arjamand and I'm an environmental scientist by profession and founder of STEM Catalyst. I would also like to, share this platform with my partners who are not here, business partners, Faiza Sayed and Tasneem Usman. If you could, Emma, I'm not able to see the presentation on my screen. If you could let me know, because it's time to play the video, the little video out there.
Hi, I'm Faiza.
Hi, I'm Arjamand.
Hi, I'm Tasneem.
And together we're STEM Catalyst. Our aim is to help children and their families observe and enjoy the science around them. We're doing this with citizen science.
What is citizen science? Citizen science is practice of public participation in scientific research. We find living organisms in our surroundings, take pictures of them and upload them on the iNaturalist database. This not only increases our knowledge about nature, but also helps scientists around the world to improve their research about different species living in different parts of the globe.
You can also earn badges by playing games, but the best part is you can help real scientists all over the world.
Hi, I'm Jubilee. I can either be a scientist by observing my backyard or looking at the clouds.
You can be a scientist even in this lockdown.
So join us online next time in our session to explore fun ways to connect back to nature and become a citizen scientist. It all started back in 2017 when I was competitively selected in a pilot project run by Royal Society of Victoria for STEM professionals all around the globe. We were trained for 15 good weeks and we came up with unique science shows open for all Victorian schools. Moving on to the next slide, I seized the opportunity and brought this opportunity to my children's school where I was strongly supported by the principal and my current project partners. We ran the science club during recess and lunch times for the whole academic year. Moving on to the next slide. The program was so successful that we engaged more than 150 students, and the principal offered us to contract our service for the next academic year, which was 2020. When we were told to formalize our service, we literally had no idea how to work it out and how to figure out and make it a business plan. We were lucky enough to find Stepping Stones program just about to start early March this year. And I would like to begin thanking, moving on to the next slide, I'd like to begin thanking the Stepping Stones team. We've got Angie, fabulous facilitators, Angie Baskidis, Bruce Hall, who helped us register our business by staying a little bit over time. After the sessions, we tried and registered our business. We were greatly supported by the program coordinator, Emma Gale, who also helped us paired up with the mentor, with a STEM background, Kate Hulisi, and her guidance and her knowledge has always kept us on our toes that we can always achieve more. Stepping Stones program also facilitated us with a graphic designer who could make our project flyers and brochures that we can advertise on social media platforms. And those projects are up on the slide. The National Science Week, especially celebrated every year in August all across Australia. We were able to offer multiple free sessions to the public during that time. And we engaged 500 plus community members with young children and families by doing simple nature-based activities. And you could see those flyers up on the thing. We were also able to roll out a first paid project, which was run in the term 3 holidays, the Raining Cats and Dogs program. We got a very good response from that project, and we are collaborating with further organizations. I thank Stepping Stones a lot for helping us convert our ideas into reality. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jar. And what I find really exciting about that is not just how it's impacted or impacted the lives of those running the business, it's also the difference it makes in the families and everyone who's involved in your business, who's actually the recipient of your business. So that's great to hear.
Thank you very much.
So we're going to move now to hear from Father Hugh Kempster. He's the vicar of St. Peter's Eastern Hill, and he's going to be sharing about the work of Heaven at the Hill. It's a boutique caterer, a not-for-profit social enterprise committed to advancing social inclusion and volunteers, some from disadvantaged backgrounds, experiencing barriers to unemployment, are offered real work experience and working alongside professionals to deliver barista coffee and gourmet food.
Thank you, Bishop Genieve, and the organising team. It's lovely to be part of things today. Thank you for the invitation. And I wonder if I might begin with a question. What is social enterprise? That's something that I thought I knew the answer, but it's been an unfolding answer as we've got into this more and more. Business Victoria defines them as businesses that trade to intentionally tackle social problems, to improve communities, and to provide people access to employment and training, or to help the environment. And I think as Christians, we might add, it's just what we do and what we always have done. The scriptural justification is in almost every book of the Bible. Love your neighbor as yourself, Leviticus, and the great commandments. What does the Lord require of you but to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God? Now in Joppa, there was a disciple whose name was Tabitha. She was devoted to good works and acts of charity. And of course, probably at the heart for many of us, I think certainly for myself, blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God, from the Beatitudes. Here at St. Peter's, social enterprise is very much in our DNA. In the depression of the 1890s, we supported Sister Esther, then later Mother Esther, in her social enterprise to the mission to the streets and lanes. Father Tucker established the Brotherhood of St. Laurence from St. Peter's during the Great Depression of the 1930s, another of Melbourne's great social enterprises. Following the 1987 share market crash, parishioners of St. Peter's started up the Lazarus Centre breakfast program that we now run in partnership with Anglicare. Of course, our chair here, as well as reps from Anglicare. And this is still going strong, although I must say our breakfasts are takeaways since the pandemic. The most recent chapter in the book, so to speak, has been the formation of St. Peter's Eastern Hill Social Enterprise. We are an incorporated association and a registered charity. After several years of dreaming, planning and fundraising, in September of last year, we finally launched our coffee caravan, which trades under the name Heaven at the Hill. The primary purpose of the caravan, aside from making some of Melbourne's best coffee, one of our goals, is to provide employment pathways, training, volunteering opportunities, as well as meaning, purpose and a place of belonging for those who are in necessitous circumstances. A year later, by God's grace and a lot of hard work, we've been able to employ 3 post-release prisoners. We've assisted one of our former staff in securing an apprenticeship. And over the year, we've built up a team of 41 volunteers. And a majority of these lost their jobs in March when the pandemic hit. Ironically, and Genieve, we were just discussing this earlier, weren't we, a moment ago, but ironically, our time of most dramatic growth as a social enterprise over the past year has been during the 2 COVID-19 lockdowns. And it's this story that I'd like to briefly tell in the time that I have left. But first, I'd like you to hear from some of the amazing Heaven at the Hill volunteers, without whom the enterprise in its current form just would not exist. And I think Kathleen has a video that hopefully we'll be able to hear.
So at Heaven at the Hill, we provide meals to anyone in need, particularly families, international students. We set up outside and we just open at 9:30 and we let the public come through and we give them what they need. Parliament House Kitchens plays a really big role in providing meals for Heaven at the Hill. And then from there, we were able to package the meals into 7 per bag and then give them out to the public.
Well, it helps us in our everyday running of the program so much, because once we arrive on site, we can always rely that we already have so many meals that are delicious and they're prepared for us, ready to go.
For me, volunteering, especially at this time, gives me a kind of purpose and it helps me give back to the community.
I think volunteering is really great because it helps you feel like you're doing something, even if it's your own small little thing to help out people that are going through this big crisis. I think it's been a really important experience for me because it feels like you're sort of doing something, what little part you can in helping out during this crisis. And it also really helps to sort of get outside and feel like you're participating in something that's larger than just your own family and who you can help around home.
So look, the story in a nutshell, at the end of March this year, I received a call from State Parliament, where I serve as honorary chaplain, asking if we'd like to distribute pre-packaged meals to those in need as a result of the pandemic. So our Social Enterprise Board member and Director of Operations, Dr. Baudet, said yes. One of those famous, yes, I'll put up my hand and do something. And so initially it was fairly straightforward. We picked up a few meals each day and ended up freezing half of them. But it was manageable with the volunteers and the staff that we had in the social enterprise. But then we linked with our other project partner, RMIT University, where St. Peter's staff member Alai Taulialo heads up the multi-faith chaplaincy. And it was a time of profound crisis, which is ongoing, but it was just the beginning of all of this. And they had more than 17,000 student applications for emergency relief. And so we said, well, look, let people know what we're doing. So in each communication with the students, they were encouraged to go to St. Peter's if they needed food. Well, the floodgates really opened then and built up sort of week by week quite quickly. And now we have around 350 students who we serve each week, mostly international. And we've distributed more than 44,000 meals in the last 6 months. Every time I give that figure, it goes up again. Many of those picking up meals said they would like to help as well, which was another fantastic response and something that was really very unexpected. So now, in addition, we have a team of 41 volunteers that I mentioned. And our catchphrase is run by students for students. Being a social enterprise, as well as providing a handout, an important part of our philosophy is to be able to give people a hand up as well. Soon after the second lockdown hit, this really started to click into gear. I guess we'd been through lockdown once. We got through the panic and the all that meant, and we all know what that's been like. In the second lockdown, we just had the opportunity to do a bit of thinking. So we decided to do a few things. Firstly, a key thing, we had a coffee machine donated for training purposes, and that was an absolute gem. And so our trainees, our barista training program was born there, and our trainees now make pay-as-you-feel coffee, takeaway coffee, of course, at the moment, for those who come to pick up prepackaged meals. So they pick up the meals, and then we say, would you like a coffee? And it's really, I mean, Melbourne's coffee, isn't it? And it lifts the spirits, and it gives a great connection, and it's been a wonderful addition to what we offer. And then one of the students visiting said, can I sell my artwork? So now you can pick up your meal, you can pick up your coffee, and you can also pick up some of Matilda's amazing artwork. She's got little postcards and she's painted shopping bags. So that's been another tremendous thing that's begun. And then another student brought in some pre-loved clothes. And so that's turned into an idea. We're now waiting for the lockdown to end so that we can open our secondhand clothes shop for students.
So thanks, Hugh. That's great. And I think what's exciting about what you're saying there is two things. One is the initiative coming from a parish and really just be part of the DNA of its mission. But also, too, I want to say it's the compound effect. The compound opportunity is what I'm thinking as things take off. And that's what I really hear as exciting in what you're saying. And so thank you for that. We're going to switch now to back to an agency presentation again. This is actually two agencies together, really. Fiona Sewell is from Benetas, and she's going to talk about the opportunity of Benetas's participation in the Given the Chance program. That's a program of BSL, Social Enterprise, to support disadvantaged job seekers into paid employment. And I love seeing two of our agencies work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop Genieve, and thank you everyone for being here and listening, and for everyone that helped put this together. I don't have any videos, so everyone can relax for a moment. As Bishop Genieve mentioned, my name is Fiona Sewell. I'm the Employee Experience Advisor at Benetas. So in my role, I have the pleasure of being involved in a lot of diversity and inclusion type initiatives at Benetas, which is why I'm here today. So we'll go to the first slide. I'll just give you a quick rundown on Benetas for anyone that doesn't know. Anglican Aged Care Services Group was established in 1948 by volunteers from the Anglican Diocese of Melbourne and through the gift of our flagship facility, Broughton Hall in Camberwell, which is pictured there. It was rebranded under the trading name of Benetas in 2003. And for anyone playing along at home, Benetas means a good age of life in Latin. The services that we provide include residential aged care, retirement living, in-home care, including veterans home care, respite services, allied health, and some independent living units as well. And in terms of our workforce, at last count, we had about 1,670 employees, and those are spread right across the state, including regional Victoria. On to the next slide. Thank you, Kathleen. As mentioned, this is kind of two forces combined. So this is, Given the Chance, is an initiative through the Brotherhood of St. Laurence. So certainly don't want to steal their thunder. But in terms of giving you a quick rundown, in a nutshell, Given the Chance is an employment pathways program designed to support disadvantaged job seekers, primarily refugees and asylum seekers who are ready to enter the Australian workforce. There are a lot of benefits for both the participants and the employers. So for participants, to name a few, they have a chance to become familiar with Australian organisations, culture and work-specific language. They can improve on their own communication and networking skills, and of course gain really valuable work experience as well. For employers, it supports diverse and inclusive workplaces, works towards social and economic inclusion, builds also on the team supporting the participants, so things like the capability of the buddies and the intercultural skills of the team as well. So Benetas got involved as part of our social dividend commitment to provide those pathways. So how we make it work, it might be a little different at different organisations, but we start with our social dividend budget. So we're able to support about 3 participants per financial year. The Brotherhood of St. Laurence is the legal employer. Benetas is the host employer. And the types of roles that we usually support are personal care workers or sometimes lifestyle roles. These have usually been within our residential services until just this year, where we've successfully piloted a in-home service assistant role in our community health and care division. We run the placement or the program for about 6 months. Sorry, if you can just go back, not quite there yet. 6-month placement. During this time, the participant is supernumerary. So this means they're an additional resource to the team. Buddy program is vital to the success of this program. So the buddies receive training before the program commences, and they will work very closely with the participant. They'll allow the participant to become more and more hands-on as they become more and more comfortable. And ongoing employment. So we don't start this program with the 6-month placement and that's it. We always start the program with the vision in our minds that we will employ this person at the end of the program. So in the spirit of that, we treat them like any other employee. If there's any performance or behaviour concerns or anything like that, we'll address them as we go. And we have immense support as well from the field officer and the Brotherhood of St. Laurence. So there's a whole team of people supporting the participant through the journey. All right, on to the last slide now. I just wanted to quickly introduce you all to Bronte as a bit of a showcase. Bronte is one of our many participants. So she started her placement with us early last year after her father heard about Given the Chance, saw Benetas's values and it all aligned. So she started with us early last year and was offered employment in November last year. Bronte loves having relationships with people and finds immense value in feeling appreciated for her work. She describes her colleagues and residents as feeling like family. And some more recent insights, understandably with restrictions with COVID, there's been less lifestyle activities and entertainment available for residents. So Bronte has been able to play violin for them. She's played for the last 22 years and really loves doing so. So she's able to combine that passion of music with supporting residents as well. So really nice to see her growing and flourishing in the team. And more recently, as you can see by the photo here, Bronte was involved in our upcoming branding campaign. So she's kind of been a bit of a poster child for us and able to experience a lot of different opportunities. So that's it in a really quick nutshell. But although we only can take on about 3 people per year, it's really, really rewarding to be able to look back and see this healthy little cohort of previous participants that are still with us today, and just having that opportunity to quite literally give these people a chance that they might not have otherwise had.
Mm. And my sense also would be that, Fiona, more than what you realise, I bet, is they're also opening up opportunities for other people, because I'm sure sometimes people can experience a lot of unconscious bias, and just getting people in the workplace can actually be overcoming those things as well. And I hope people are picking up the range of programs in the agencies. I mean, think about stepping stones, you know, that's enabling people who've got that entrepreneurial spirit, setting up a business. And what we're seeing here is another program which is not so much setting up a business, but getting people into the workforce in other ways. So I hope people are picking up the richness of the programs that are available through our agencies that we can be tapping into. So thank you, Fiona. And I'm now going to introduce Richard from the Good Business Project, Richard Wilson, and he's going to be the Reverend Richard Wilson. He's going to be talking about really how we can be connecting with people who are in work in the business community. He's going to talk about what has happened in Camberwell and also future plans looking to the Docklands and so on. So I'll hand over to Richard. Thank you.
Thanks, Bishop Genieve. I have been had worked in the business and government community for over 2011. Or just before that, I decided to join the church. I was ordained in 2011. Went in with the specific objective of doing business ministry. My first appointment was to St John's, Camberwell, and what I'm going to talk to you about now is really a case study of a business ministry that we set up at St John's in the time that I was there as a curate. St John's, if you don't know it, sits right on the Camberwell Junction. Camberwell Junction is a busy retail and professional services hub. It's got a very compact location that's everyone sort of embedded in on the 3 major cross streets, so it's very easy to access. Is that St John's had wanted to have a business ministry running from the church for quite some time, but for reasons that I don't quite understand, hadn't actually got around to doing it. And I think it required someone who had a leadership role and had an interest in doing it to arrive, and that's where I came into the picture. The objectives of the ministry that we ultimately set up were as follows: to claim a place in the public square. That's a technical thing, but technical term, but that really means to be out in amongst the public as the church. In being out amongst the public, to also be available to provide pastoral care, also to be advocates of the church's position on community affairs, and to become through that, to become hopefully part of their moral compass. The other thing that we wanted to do was to establish a worship cycle which was focused on what, as opposed to, for want of a better term, as opposed to the Sunday program, which, because the business people in Camberwell Junction were probably living elsewhere in the suburbs and weren't there on a Sunday. So that's the history and the objectives. I'm now going to talk about what's probably seems to be the hardest part, which is setting up. So the first thing that I did after we'd agreed within the parish that was business ministry was what we wanted to do, the first thing I did was to go to the local council, it's Burundara Council, and spoke to the people there about who was in the business community, what the shape and size of the business community was, and more particularly, who were the sort of the movers and the shakers, or who were the people who were identified as the leaders and organisers. And they gave me the name of two people associated with two of these organisations. They were the Retail Traders Association, which looked after all the shops, and the Camberwell Business Club, which was focused on the professional services providers. Now, the professional services providers were largely lawyers, accountants, and so forth. The next thing I did was to walk around the area and took photos of front gates and tenants boards in high rises to build an address list. So I built a postal address list. My contention was that people in Camberwell probably didn't have the opportunity to hear thoughtful and interesting guest speakers or to build networks like people do in the CBD. So I decided to have a go at setting up a breakfast seminar. We'd have the best guest speaker along and invite people along to come and listen. So we did that. Another thing we had to do was make a decision about what sort of public profile we were going to adopt. And we decided in the end to be plainly the church. So we held the breakfast seminars in the church, in the parish hall. That required people to walk through the church to get to it. And all the clergy who were involved, or any clergy who were involved, wore collars. Right from through the postal address list that I created and what eventually became an email address list, we had a large number of people, actually fairly quickly, on our on our program, and we used that to run the invitations. We ran the seminars once a quarter, and it was actually regarded as quite a success right from the outset, at least on the basis of numbers. We had quite a strong following in fairly short time. We probably got an average of about 40 or 50 attendees. It peaked, I think, at about 75 with what must have been our best guest speaker. And through that, we developed quite a lot of contacts within the business community. So that's how it worked. To keep it going, that's how the startup worked. To keep it going, just some comments about that. I believe it needs about 5 years to set up this sort of thing to get going, because relation is an important part of it. So in fact, it's not a job for curate, because curates only hang around for 2, or in my case, 3 years, and you can't do it unless you can be certain that you can hand it on to somebody else. But a point I want to make is that although there was a fair bit of work to set it up in the first place, it was just work. It wasn't in any other way difficult, and I think anybody could do it. I left St John's, and what I did next was I decided that we didn't really know why what we'd done worked, because it worked at the outset. So we never had the challenge of something going wrong and having to understand it in detail. It just worked right from the outset. So I decided to go on and do some research. I did a PhD at Trinity College to work out what it really was that churches were able to do in relation to business, engaging with the business community. I've just finished that in the last year, and now I'm working under the name of the Good Business Project with the Mission to Seafarers through the agency of St George's East Ivanhoe. And we're working on a program to offer business ministry to the Docklands community, Docklands business community. And I'd like to say that that's a great success, but unfortunately, COVID-19's got in the road, so we're actually sort of halted in our tracks for the moment. One last thing, because my time's up. One last thing, Bishop Genieve, you asked us for a takeaway. My takeaway is that if you're even, as a parish, even vaguely interested in doing this, I can't urge you strongly enough to have a go, because as I said before, it's not all that difficult. There's a bit of work, but actually it's not that difficult. And we were surprised about the number of people that we were able to gather together.
Thanks. Yeah.
And also one other thing, if you are interested and you would like some assistance, I'd be more than happy to provide some consultancy assistance.
Yes, thank you, Richard. And I think what I want to emphasise too from what you've said is that you know, your passions matter. There was an obvious opportunity there and need, but also it was made real by Richard's passion. And I think that's something we want to be reflecting more on. You know, what are our passions? Where can we make a difference? And I think what Richard has also done is given a really made it doable, you know, breaking it down into those steps to start. So thank you, Richard, very much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
I want to move now to our last presentation, which is a pre-recorded video, and we think we've sorted the technology. I want to point you to the chat where both Hugh and Vaj, thank you Vaj, has actually, or Emma, I'm not sure who's posted it, have posted the links to their videos. But what we're seeing here is the Sudanese Saturday School, and Katie Moore and Saren Jones have put this together. They're unable to be here at this stage of our webinar because of their day professions, but they are going to join us later. And really it supports the learning and growth of primary to university students and their migrant and refugee families. And it's a partnership between the Anglican parish of Box Hill and Anglicare Victoria.
Hi everyone, my name is Katie Moore. And my name is Saren Jones. Together we coordinate a Saturday school at the St. Peter's Parish in Box Hill. We both learned about the St. Peter's Parish when we were in high school, which is a few years ago now. And we were really interested by the unique meeting of cultures at St. Peter's. The St. Peter's congregation is uniquely made up of Anglo-Australian, Chinese Australian, and South Sudanese Australian parishioners. And it's common to see a mixture of Mandarin, English, and Dinka around the church. I was personally drawn to volunteering because I was participating in the Duke of Edinburgh Award at high school. I've always been interested in activities with children, and finding out about a homework club for primary school students that was relatively local was a great fit for me. I first started volunteering around 10 years ago now, and what keeps me involved is the community connectedness. I've learned an incredible amount from the members of the South Sudanese community who come to our homework club, and I feel much more connected to a broader section of Melbourne's community than I would have if I'd not joined a diverse community group. I first learned about the program through Katie and came one morning out of curiosity. I already had prior experience in tutoring primary school children, and from how Katie spoke about the program, it felt like a good opportunity to put my skills to use. I stayed on as a volunteer because I developed meaningful relationships with the children I tutored. After tutoring for 2 years, I left when I got a part-time job during uni and came back 2 years ago because I missed the kids and that feeling of connection with a tight-knit community. Tutoring at Saturday School gave me a deeper understanding of what an important role education plays in your life, and I really value how it helped me grow as a person. St. Peter's is home to 2 programs that we're connected to, Dream Stitches and our homework club. Dream Stitches is a community-based sewing program for migrant and refugee women and was established in 2004 as one of a number of responses to the needs of recently arrived Southern Sudanese refugees. A dedicated and skilled group at Dream Stitches teaches migrant and refugee women to sew on a one-to-one basis. People at Dream Stitches learn to knit clothes, and once proficient, can earn paid sewing work. The program has responded to the changing local community and now welcomes participants from a variety of backgrounds. At a similar time to Dream Stitches' creation, the St. Peter's Parish responded to a need that it saw for educational support of the children of its newly arrived South Sudanese parishioners, and Saturday School was created. With the support of Anglicare Victoria, the Saturday School program was initially created to support South Sudanese students in their ESL studies. As with everything, community needs change over time, and in response, Saturday School has evolved from supporting children in ESL to supporting a majority of Australian-born students of South Sudanese descent and other African backgrounds. Since 2016, Saturday School has grown to include preschool and secondary students and tripled its team of tutors, and we've been going strong ever since. Our main goal is to support our students' educational journey, to mentor young people to access helpful community connections, and, probably most importantly for us, to provide a platform for students, their parents, and our volunteers to connect.
Before lockdown in March, we had an average of 30 students attending Saturday School each week. Our aim is to have one-on-one tutoring for every student, so we have a rotating team of approximately 40 tutors, with about 30 attending each week. We are a 100% volunteer-run program, with our volunteers filling in all sorts of roles, such as pre-kinder childminding, primary and secondary tutors, kitchen staff, and helping parents with paperwork and all sorts of life admin. Our volunteer team is composed of people from a diverse range of backgrounds. Most are VCE or university students, and some retirees, and full-time workers, such as teachers and lawyers. It is a joy to watch a tutor make a connection and a friendship with a student, and while people usually approach us with an internal reason to volunteer, people stay for the emotional connection with our community. Our volunteer team is the backbone of our program, and we are very proud of them.
We also like to get out of our classroom and get our group involved in more diverse learning experiences. We aim to take our whole group, which ends up at around 100 people, on an excursion each year. This is to celebrate the year and everyone's progress. These additional learning experiences have been possible thanks to connection with organisations in our local community. We've been able to provide our students and tutors with some great experiences due to the generosity of several other programs in Melbourne.
We have been on excursions hosted by the RSPCA, ScienceWorks, Eastern Gymnastics Club, and Melbourne Zoo. Our personal highlight was our partnership last year with Surrey Park Swimming, a non-for-profit local swimming school who hosted our group for 2 terms of swimming lessons, completely free of charge. We are also able to continue the theme of water safety by ending the year with an excursion to the beach, hosted by Life Saving Victoria's Multicultural Community Outreach Program.
Over the years, we've also received invaluable help and advice from Anglicare, the Centre for Multicultural Youth, our local council, and Rotary groups. Our biggest learnings have been the power of a volunteer community, and that drawing on existing initiatives around you makes community programs stronger and provides the best experiences, and that generally, most people are pretty willing to help out. Thanks for listening, and we're both always really happy to talk to anyone who's thinking of starting something similar.
I'm actually going to hand over to Tom Hadkis, who is the Parish Partnerships Coordinator, or sort of, for Anglicare Victoria. And he's just going to fill out what's been happening with COVID-19. But I hope you're hearing how the Anglicare has been able to help that, provide that support as well, that the benefit of it comes from doing things in partnership with our agencies.
Thanks, Bishop Genieve. Can I just check that you can hear me?
We can hear you, but we're seeing just a corner of you.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm in a car having on the way back from our emergency relief centre in Sunshine, where we had nearly 30 people approach us with needs this morning, which is a bit of a run. So apologies for not being able to see me. I shouldn't fiddle, or the police will pull me over. Thank you, Bishop Genieve. I wanted to, on the request of Bishop Genieve, just fill out a little bit around the Box Hill Homework Club, the Sudanese Homework Club, and COVID. I'm impressed by all of the presentations and their conversation and direction towards community. And the Sudanese Homework Club is a great example of the formation of community and the involvement of community in supporting communities grow and thrive. During COVID, of course, in that first lockdown, I had a call, or I made a call to Saren and Katie to thank them for their efforts and to confirm that things were okay, given that we had gone into lockdown, and inquire about all the families who now were probably unable to receive support through the Homework Club. But it was a very tactile, physical presence at Box Hill. I was absolutely delighted when Katie and Saren said, "What are you talking about? we haven't stopped and we haven't closed. We've gone straight onto Zoom, and those 30 children that we tutor every Saturday still continue to receive tutoring every week by dedicated tutors. We've just done it via Zoom. And I think the message in this is dedicated communities looking to serve one another will find a way to continue to provide the support that's required, regardless of the impediments that they face, such as COVID. And I commend their work and effort to you. And I'm delighted that all of the presentations today are commitments of individuals to serve community building and strengthening their own communities.
Yes, thanks, Tom. And I think what also comes out is the difference it can make in our lives and also the opportunity and the transformation it can mean for those actually volunteering. So I hope that's another thing that you're taking out of it. And also too, Tom hasn't said a lot about this, but actually what has actually come out of this too is saying, well, Anglicare, all our kids should actually maybe, can't we actually be doing this for all our kids? COVID's shown how we can do it online. And so it's the two-way street of, the volunteer with the people participating in the programs, but also the two-way street of how it can impact our agencies as well. We've had these 5 presentations. We're actually now going to move to the breakout sessions. I'm going to, this is where we're going to have, I'll say 15 to 20 minutes because we are running a little bit late for group discussion. I'm going to allocate you randomly to a group. And for those of you who are not familiar with breakout rooms, what will happen when I do that is you'll get a notice coming up on your screen to join the breakout room, and you just click join and off you go. And the others will join you. When you get there, please can each group nominate a scribe for the group. And that's very important. And because I'll come back to that later, but there's 2 questions for reflection as a group. What inspired you from the presentations? And what's the one question you have for the panel or panelist? So what we're wanting is each group to come back with a question for the panel or panelist. The panel is simply going to be the different people who have presented, plus some people from our agencies. From each, we just make sure each agency is represented. So please, what inspired you from the presentations, and what's the one question you have for the panel or panelist? And I'm going to send you a broadcast message, which will give you about 5 minutes notice. You can round up then, or you can have and go and get a cup of coffee, come back in 5, or you can go on talking for those 5 minutes. But I will give you that warning. And then when you come back to the plenary, the panel, each group scribe is to write the question for that group that they're wanting to ask the panel in the chat box. So don't write it in your breakout room chat box. We won't get it. You need to write it when we come back in the plenary. So that's the big responsibility of the scribe. So I am about to press create chat rooms, and you'll go off, and look forward to seeing you in 15 to 20 minutes.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
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 Hi, Chris. Both Chris.
Hey.
Yes, hello. We can hear you, Chris.
Okay. Oh, that's good.
Hi, Robin.
Hi.
Hi, Fiona.
Hello.
Hi, Kathleen.
Well, as Bishop Genieve said, I'm happy to be scribe, by the way. Just
That was easy.
That word off everyone. Yeah, if you just want to go one by one, what inspired you, and then we could go with leave this with one question for the panelists, one of the panelists.
I'll go first.
Thanks.
I'm just inspired by the amount of volunteer that's involved in these programs. It's amazing, and I think it's quite often we don't give credit to our volunteers enough. Yeah, it's amazing the amount of work that they put into such programs, and that just took me back. Yeah, it's amazing what can get done.
That's so true. What about you, Robin? Did you take anything away?
I was inspired by the girls at Box Hill who just had the idea and went to it, just saw the need and got there.
Mm. Yeah. And what about you, Chris Lancaster?
Sure, yeah. I think two things that I noticed. One was the individual story, particularly of was it Bronte at working with Benetas, and yeah, just amazing to think first that there's someone who's been set on a new path, but also clearly has these amazing gifts that are being well used in that new situation. So everyone wins from that, but it takes quite a bit of investment, doesn't it, to get to that point. But that very kind of narrow, if you like, investment in one person, which then ends up, bringing benefits to a whole lot of other people. And then I was also just noticing both Richard talking about Camberwell and the two girls talking about Box Hill. They noticed something specific to where they were. So at Camberwell, it was, well, here we are, we've got this concentration of businesses. And at Box Hill, it was noticing that quite unique kind of demographic of their church community with Anglo and South Sudanese and Chinese. So they were very specific responses to specific circumstances, rather than just sort of generic, well, what's something good we can do around us here. Yeah, so that was a good kind of observing of the local lie of the land, if you like.
Absolutely. I mean, for me personally, I found the girls who both work full-time managed to put together a video, and just all of the work of everybody behind the scenes has been absolutely fantastic. It's been really inspiring to help put this together and see how much social enterprise that Anglican agencies have. And this is just touching the surface of what is out there. There is so much more that is not part of today's session that is happening. And it's really good to see the spotlight being put on that. So that for me is what's inspired me. And what about you, Fiona?
Well, a lot of things, I think we could really sense the passion from everyone, which was really nice. But one thing that did stand out was when Emma was speaking in relation to stepping stones, and she spoke about how they've got their mentoring program. So firstly, first step, they've identified this need, and they're supporting the women by doing this mentoring program. But then they've also got in there that they offer childcare so that women can actually attend. So they haven't just thought about, who do we need to support? They've actually then thought about what barriers there might be and how to overcome that. So I think that was just a small thing, but probably makes a really big difference.
Absolutely. So in terms of a question for the panelists, we only need to have one question from all of us. Just gauging from what everybody's talking about, the key things seem to be the volunteers and like the work that happens behind the scene, the organic needs that are being met, dependent upon the location, and identifying what needs to happen in order for these things to occur. So is there
I guess how were the needs identified? What that process really looked like?
Yeah.
Could be one question. That's my two bob's worth.
Yeah.
Like, was it a survey or How did that come up?
Definitely.
I'm also wondering about this very current situation of emerging from COVID, and going off the edge of the JobKeeper cliff, as some people are calling it. Like, we're in a very particular situation that a new situation right now in these coming months. What are the particular sort of needs and opportunity for social enterprise in this very current context at the moment?
Well, we could probably combine those two comments together in saying that there's obviously a need, like you're saying, Chris, about what happens when we come back from COVID, because this is obviously a perpetual state that just constantly evolves. But how do you identify that need? So we can put that together in one question. Does that sound appropriate for everyone?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good. Well, I guess we can leave it at that, and everyone can either go get yourself some beverage or a bathroom break, or whatever, or pat your dogs if you've got one, or whatever. And I'll see you guys back when Genieve brings us back to the joint room.
No worries. Cheers.
Thanks very much, Kathleen. Okay, thank you.
gives them a minute. So, yeah, but because I reckon some people will also want to jump around and stand up if they've kept talking. So, Kathleen, I hope I timed that okay. I lost track of when I said the 5 minutes.
It was perfect. In my breakout session, yeah, we you know, everyone had a highlight, and we've got a question for the panel when we're ready. So.
Oh, good. Okay, so as you're coming back, the groups, please do be typing in for everyone to see the questions. That would be great in the chat. So that's a message to the scribes. So great. Kathleen's modelled, she's obviously been the scribe for her group. Kathleen's my assistant, by the way, and she's been working hard today. I think it was a bit rude to make you the scribe, Kathleen.
Oh, I actually offered.
No, thanks. And thanks, Maren and John and Catherine. So that's 4 groups that are, have done their job. So I was probably waiting on about 4 more. Great, they're good questions coming in. Okay. I'll just give another minute. I was timing everything to allow for the fact that if we started at 1:45, we've gained time, and we might, and we've got back to closer to being on schedule. So that's great. But I feel like there should be another couple of questions coming in. So I might just give it another minute, and then we'll get the panel. So Kathleen, if you could be preparing to spotlight the panel, that would be great. Sylvia, we have Sylvia Peacock Group 2, but we don't actually have, oh, here's the question. Oh, we don't actually have the question, Sylvia. So if you were able to type in the question, that would be lovely. Okay. So Kathleen, if you could start spotlighting the panel, that would be great. And what we're going to do now is I want to just quickly introduce, as you've met most people on the panel before, but I do want to introduce Deborah Safri-Collins. She's actually she's the head of chaplaincy and diocesan partnerships with the Brotherhood of St. Laurence. So can we see, can we see Deborah? That'd be great. Kathleen? Lovely, yeah. Sure, you're really pleased, Deborah. And the other person I want to introduce as well is Jean Good from Benetas. She's the pastoral care coordinator with Benetas. If you could highlight Jean, that'd be great, just so people can see Jean. Lovely. And then also Tom, you have already met. I don't know whether Tom's still in the car or not, but he's the Director of Diocesan and Parish Partnerships and with Anglicare Victoria. So that's great. Okay, we have some great questions, and so there's these guys, plus there's also the panelists that questions can be directed to. And I think we might actually start with the first, the question that from the group that Kathleen was a part of. Emerging from COVID-19, with the end of JobKeeper nigh, what are the particular needs or opportunities that social enterprise should engage with in our current context moving forward? And how do you identify these needs? I actually thought Tom and Deborah might be good to kick that off, answer to that. And then I thought, just to give warning, is I might just turn to, say, someone like Hugh or Richard, just in terms of from a parish perspective as well, just to give an idea of where I'm going to head with that. So Deborah and Tom, would one or other of you like to start answering that?
So could you just repeat the question?
Yeah,
I had a drop out in the middle.
Okay, it's in the chat, but it's emerging from COVID-19. What are the particular needs or opportunities that social enterprise should engage with in our current context moving forward? How do you identify these needs? And I thought that you guys might particularly have insights. I'll give you time to think, Deborah, if Tom wants to.
No,
go great.
Oh yes, please, Tom, go ahead. No, Tom?
You're on mute, Tom.
You're on mute, Tom. So, Deborah, you jump in and then Tom can add. Yep.
Okay. Sorry, not wanting to waste time. I think, we're going to obviously see huge numbers of people, and we already are seeing huge numbers of people unemployed. And so where social enterprise, I think, can play a role, and where we can all play a role, is to think through what are the obvious ways in which we can engage people, whether it's giving them experience, such as we do in the Given the Chance program that leads to employment, or whether it's helping people think through what are their own abilities and talents which they can explore and grow, or ways in which even we can volunteer, which gives us skills that we didn't have before. So I think it's that thinking more creatively about what our workforce can look like. We know this is going to be quite a long road for many people. So how do we get 1.6 million people back into effective employment?
Thanks, Deborah. And Tom, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think the consequences of COVID will be generationally long-lasting, and I think it will fundamentally ask people, how do I contribute successfully as a human being within community if I don't have work as my main meaning for life? And I think social enterprises can do both. It can satisfy the yearning of people to contribute as a successful person within community through participating in social enterprises as one outlet. And the social enterprise also would provide employment opportunities for those who are looking for employment to fill that gap. So the only other thing I would say is it's not constrained to work. We need to look at our creative arts, our social engagement, and supporting one another in a humane way.
Thanks, Tom. And what I want to put a plug in for, and Kathleen, I'll ask you to quickly spotlight Nick, if that's possible. It's not going to send you into chaos. Nick White is the Archdeacon for Parish Partnerships, and he, together with Anglicare, really put together a survey that we're able to put out, and also supported by Benetas and Brotherhood of St. Laurence. And I think what that survey actually highlighted was, step one is observing the needs in the community. And if you haven't done that survey already, click on the link on the diocesan website, or contact Nick, because that would be really good. That to me is also step one, observing the needs, and then thinking about what resources. And I might now turn to Hugh. You might want to add to something that's been said there, but also I wonder whether you might have something to say to the question, how do the participants in our programs see it as coming from a gospel-inspired perspective? So I just invite you to maybe answer if you have anything to add to what was before, and also if you want to move into that question as well, and then I might turn to Richard as well.
Thank you. Yeah, really good questions. And I think on the first question, I'd probably really just be underlining what's already been said. One of the things that we're seeing loud and clear is the question of youth unemployment, which has been an issue for a long time. I think the figures at the moment are about 14 or 15%, and that's meant to be rather hidden by job keeper and etc. So there's a massive issue for our young people. So what can we do as churches, as people in the community? Well, I think, as has already been mentioned, volunteer experience, work experience. What we're finding is, as we've connected with these young people, they are keen as anything. Actually, especially during lockdown, some of them have said, "This is the first time I've been out this week." So there's kind of a real opportunity, I think, at the moment, if we've got connection with young people, to find creatively in our own environment, whatever it might be, to find creative ways for volunteer experience shouldn't be underestimated, I think. And another thing is hunger. I mean, that's the thing that has struck us through the process that we've been on. People who have never been hungry before in their lives in this way are suddenly without food. I told the story before of a young woman who came in the pouring rain, ripped off the lid of one of the meals that we gave her cold. You know, the idea is to go home and put it in the microwave, and she started eating away. I mean, and there are so many other stories I could tell you of that we've experienced over the last 6 months. It's incredible. So again, that's something we can do. Father David does a fantastic job with his drop-in centre and rather his op shop, and provides food there as an outlet for people. Bread, you know, bakeries, they chuck away all of this bread every day. Can we as a church pick up some of it? So there's so many different things. And the last thing, just to underline, that's already been said, but creative arts.
Yeah.
We do this all the time. We have choirs, we have musicians, we have bands. The creative arts has collapsed under COVID. And we've got these great venues as well. So
and yet been so nimble with COVID too, isn't it? It's actually the industry more than anything else that in another way has actually adapted, hasn't it? Yes. So Hugh,
last question around the gospel. Look, there's a great phrase. Was it Mother Teresa? No, who was it? Someone anyway. Preach the gospel often, sometimes with words. Yeah. So I think if we live the gospel in this way, if we genuinely, without hooks attached, you know, a lot of people, they can sniff out someone who is not genuinely, unconditionally loving. And I don't think we should underestimate that either. The gift of food or whatever it might be, without hooks attached. But then, yes, absolutely, open hearts and relationships and open doors and hospitality, and the gospel is then preached in words as well. But first of all, I think to preach it in what we do.
Yes, and I think what you're bringing out there is how we can be simply a blessing to people.
Yeah.
And what you're describing is grace, isn't it? Yeah. Unconditional. So thanks, Hugh. Richard, is there something you want to add to that?
A couple of things, just to reinforce what you just said, Bishop Genieve and Hugh, that I think the gospel will speak for itself. It's especially important from my perspective when ministering to the business, have the strings attached, as Hugh referred to, not be proselytizing, not to be seen to be trying to do what social justice requires, and you'll be, you know, that will be enough. The other thing, I suppose, in response to the question, from my perspective, given that we started at the Mission to Seafarers really just before COVID-19, I'm trying to work with a community, none of whom I've met at the moment. Now, obviously, that's got great limitations and it's not doing the sorts of things you would expect. But even when we come back, the business community is going to, I think we can expect to be largely much thinner on their traditional workplaces than they were in the past. So we have to rethink our traditional approaches to pastoral care. I mean, my training, practice, and image of pastoral care is sitting with the person. Well, I don't think we're going to be able to do that. And as the Box Hill people so wonderfully portrayed. Okay, do something different. Well, I think especially for those of us who are a bit older, maybe something different is going to be harder, but we just have to work to it. And that's that's a bit of a challenge. Not that it's not the technology that is a challenge, it's how we do these things. Over Zoom, for instance. How do you do pastoral care over in that way? I mean, some people do it, but I think that's a great challenge for us.
Yeah.
I just wondered whether you want me to talk about the question that says, how do we sustain the program when the innovator moves on? Because I'm one of the innovators who moved. You want me?
Just to go there, yeah.
Important question. Sorry, Bishop Genieve, you.
No, I said happy for us to go there.
I think it's a question, and two things. I think if you're going to be an innovator, I think one of the early steps you have to take is to begin grooming your successor. Try to identify the person who is going to be the person who follows you on. And that might mean, to be honest, in a parish context, or perhaps any context, you've got to make sure that it's not your initiative, but it's the community initiative. So, beware of personality cults, to make an extreme, give it an extreme name. But, it shouldn't be about Richard's ministry to the business community. It's the parish's ministry to the business community, or in whatever arrangements. The thing is to make sure that the supports are in place for someone to take over. I mean, Bishop Genieve, you very kindly made a reference to my passion, and I suppose it's true. But one of the problems with that is that you passion to do things in a way that other people won't do, and with less support. So you've got to make sure that if it's going to work, it's going to work not just for you because you're prepared to put in the hours for that other people wouldn't do. Make sure it's doable for other people as well. Because my experience was, and I didn't mention it and I wasn't going to, but someone's asked the question, the business ministry at St. John's fell apart after I left, which was not about me. It was about there not being someone else to take my place. So it's a real risk.
Yeah. Is there anything another panelist would want to add into that question about how to actually ensure the ongoing nature? I wonder whether, Hugh, I might just ask if, I'll come back to you, but I'm also just thinking whether Katie because I think this might be something too that with the Sudanese Saturday school that I'm sure you're thinking about. And we have Katie in person now, not just on a recorded Zoom. So Katie, could you speak to that?
Yeah, happy to give it a go. Honestly, I think it's really tricky, but I think that I completely agree that it's all about finding sort of scouting for talent, if you like. And I think it's hard because so often we're caught up in, if you're part of creating something, you love it, and it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, and it's quite hard to put the time aside and say, I'm really thinking now about 12 months or 18 months ahead. And especially when it brings you so much joy, it's quite difficult to go, yes, I'm thinking of a scenario where I don't do this anymore. And it's definitely something, often these projects are big. And, if you are dealing with volunteers or when you're working with people who are giving a lot of time to the community, I know my first reaction is always, I feel bad about putting more on someone else's plate, or I feel like everyone's already giving. But I think, there's always a fantastic opportunity for somebody else. There are huge skills that come from taking over a project, or, often the second innovator is someone who makes things grow or takes things in a new direction that's really exciting for the program. So I think it's all about either helping the person who had the original idea to find, you tap someone on the shoulder, or you provide them with, you know, praise and opportunities to kind of get some more responsibility. Or I think it's getting the word out and bringing someone external who's interested in the idea, has heard about it. You know, maybe an opportunity for some parishes is to hear about something that's already happening, but maybe needs some relief, or there's someone who might want to be moving on, and maybe it could be reinvigorating something existing, or kind of coming in and helping someone who's created something step away and onto something else.
Thanks, Katie. That's really helpful. And Hugh, did you have something to add?
Oh yeah, just a little. I've been in 3 ministry situations, 2 parishes now, and also working as senior chaplain at Geelong Grammar. And I've seen social service ministry initiatives that have been planted over those times, and in each situation have grown and are still going to this day. And I would say 2 things. First, it's okay. Give it a go.
Yeah.
If it falls over, not a problem. Nothing's really lost. You know, you've had this great thing that's happened, and that's brought great joy and meaning to people over a time, and that's okay. Things have a season.
Yeah.
But the second thing I'd like to that I've seen in my experience has been really 2 things for sustainability: structure and people or teams. So, for example, with Heaven at the Hill, we've set up an incorporated association. So there's a structure, there's a board, there's now a team of volunteers. We haven't yet employed anyone in this meals program area, so we're doing fundraising for that at the moment. I think if I was to leave tomorrow, I actually think it would keep going. It would probably change. It would probably be a bit of a struggle at times, but I think that there's enough. The seed's been planted. We've put a little greenhouse around it, and I think it might almost be ready. And certainly, you know, so things like incorporated associations or formal structures, a missions committee, or, you know, creating a committee. We're great as Anglicans at setting up committees. Well, they work. Some of them go on long beyond the time
but
they
I think you're
should.
pointing out, aren't you, the structures and the governance that goes with it can be quite critical for its ongoing sustaining beyond the actual individual. And I think that's a really important thing. And that builds on or complements what Katie's saying about, you know, be proactive in identifying and be open to what that's going to bring. So thank you. Yes. And I think there's another question here that I think taps into this as well. It's around the it's from room 7, and it's to all the panel. The sustainable model with volunteers. That is, the program runs well with volunteers now, but are there transition issues over the time? And I just thought that might be something that people on the panel might want to actually reflect on. Emma, do you just remind me, with the stepping stones, that involves volunteers too, doesn't it? Not just, you know, there's the wonderful people like Aj who have set up their business, but there's the volunteers with that. And how have you handled that in BSL? Because stepping stones has gone for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah. So the Stepping Stones program has run since 2011.
Yeah.
And it's really grown over the years with support from state and local government funding to really expand. And so we started off one kind of running the Stepping Stones course in one area in the north, and then it's really grown. So over that time, we've been able to recruit volunteers from all across Melbourne who support participants from the different groups and different areas of Melbourne. And we've got volunteers from that have been in the program. Our longest serving volunteer has been with us since the beginning.
Wow.
And all the way up to, I've recruited volunteers earlier this year, and even during COVID. So we do have a range of volunteers that have committed over that time. And I think what's worked really well is in terms of retaining our pool of volunteers is there are times recognising that they're people with lives and other commitments as well, and the time that they give us to volunteer is incredibly amazing. They offer usually every fortnight a few hours a fortnight to support the women in the program, and we recognise that sometimes during their volunteer experience they might have other pressures with work, or particularly during COVID they might need to take a break. So there's the opportunity for them to put their mentoring on hold and then come back to us when they're ready, and that's worked really well. It's been we've been able to retain a lot of our mentors because we have been flexible in how they connect with us, and we recognise that there are other things that go on in people's lives, as do our participants. So and the other thing that I mentioned earlier in my presentation was the importance of their professional development and their support. So my role is dedicated to supporting the volunteers, both with the onboarding, but also throughout their mentoring match. So if they have any issues or challenges, they can come and speak to me. We also have a community of practice that we run every month where the volunteers come together, talk about different topics, any challenges. We use the breakout rooms a lot, any challenges in their mentoring match, and they really have the support of each other. And it's been a wonderful little community that we've created.
And I think what you're bringing out there is the amazing work that BSL and work that we have a lot to learn from, a real investment in BSL in terms of volunteers and what it means, that two-way street. And I think, you know, what you've just said really, really reflects that. And I know those of us who've been gathering each week have found that really inspiring and really well worth reflecting on. I want to ask whether, Aj, I think one of the things that inspires about volunteers is the stories. Now, you're someone who's actually received the benefit of volunteers, but I just wondered if there's one thing you'd say that you really benefited from the person who was your mentor as a volunteer. Are you able to say that, Aj?
Yeah, I think that one thing will be the experience, because, you know, no matter how much you spend, you won't get the experience that, you know, if you had people around you taking, you know, giving you coaching classes and things like that could only give you as much. But ongoing mentorship is a great thing because she speaks from her experience, and we always analyze the analogy of funnel, where we start standing at the tip of the end, and our mentor standing on the other end, and she knows the whole big gamut of the industry, whereas we have just stepped in. So yeah, that would be one thing.
Oh, thanks, Aj, because that just brings it to life, what Emma was saying. So thank you. And I think it's interesting too, because just in the way that you with your business is actually building on all of your life, you know, your journey as a scientist and so on. Here's this volunteer who's able to build on in the journey of her life, her experiences in the past, and use it to impact for the future. So it's very profound, isn't it? Very profound. And I just wanted, before we move on, Jean and Fiona, I just thought you might have something to add from Benetas' perspective in that, because that your program too that you're a part of with BSL, given the chance, you know, that does that have an, I'm just trying to remember, does that have a strong element of volunteers in that, helping to enrich that?
From our perspective, no. So it's coordinated by myself, and anyone supporting people like buddies and things, they're all employees.
Oh, okay, yep. Yeah. But interesting too, how it's adding a whole other dimension to their work as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's why they are so important. We have to be really mindful of you know, not overloading them, but it is a really great opportunity. Obviously, the focus is on the participant in the program, but the buddies as well also get so much out of it. You know, they're learning new skills themselves. They're taking on that kind of mentoring role. So it's really good to see more than just the participant who gets to benefit.
It's a two-way street, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Jen, is there anything though you'd add more broadly from Benetas in terms of volunteers?
Look, I think with COVID, we're going to see a difference in demographics for volunteers. And there'll be younger people who will be seeking opportunities, who may be unemployed, looking at learning new skills, also learning new employment opportunities too, and just having that opportunity to come into a faith-based community and just be in a place where they are seen to be genuinely cared for and valued, and where we can grow meaningful relationships with people and show them the way, which are our customer experience and employee experience principles. So it's really building those relationships, and that's something that today has really been about with social enterprises.
Thanks, Jen. And I think in some ways you've actually provided the segue to another of our questions. How do we enable our faith communities to serve in the ways which we've had modelled for us today? So one of the ways, of course, is actually opportunities to volunteer. I think there's other parts of the question, but I just as a start, whether anyone on the panel has insights to share about enabling our faith communities to serve in these ways. So starting off with volunteering, but there might be other ways, other parts. Hugh, I thought you looked as if you were about to answer something there, but don't worry if you're not, but I just thought you might be.
No, I'm happy to pitch in. It's something we do quite a bit of in churches, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
And vicars and wardens and people in the congregation do this in all sorts of different ways. And we do it around worship and our internal community life. So I think one of the ways that we can enable faith communities to serve the wider community is to take those skills that we already have and apply them beyond our immediate community. I think it was Archbishop William Temple who said the church is the only organisation that exists for those who do not yet belong. And I've always taken that very much to heart. So yes, absolutely, we've got to care for our own and our worship and our pastoral care is essential. But I think there's as a community, and this comes from the leaders in each church and from our bishops, and to emphasize that fact that we are, this is the gospel, isn't it? We're not about caring for ourselves. We're about caring for those out in the community, and particularly a priority for the poor, whatever that might be. So it's having eyes, isn't it? It's seeing Lazarus at the gate.
And I think also, Hugh, with that, one of the ways we can see too is I hope people are, one of the takeaways I hope from today is that it'll be really worthwhile, everyone here, clicking on the websites for Anglicare, Benetas and Brotherhood of St. Laurence to get an understanding of the range of programs people can be involved in volunteering, and finding out what is available as clergy, you know, what we can be encouraging our people to be involved in, because we have highly skilled people. You have whole life experience in so many different walks of life, and the agencies can really be using that in so many different programs as volunteers, and even sometimes in terms of quasi-employment sort of thing in different ways. So it really is worth looking at the websites on the different websites of the different agencies and seeing what's there to be telling our people about and encouraging our people to be involved in. And I'd also be saying it's about talking to Nick, isn't it? You know, Archdeacon for Parish Partnerships, and he can be that conduit for contacting. I thought Katie might have something to add there as well in terms of just enabling faith community to be involved. I just thought you might have some insights there as well, Katie, from your experience with the with, I suppose, your knowledge also of Dream Stitches that was mentioned in your recording, as well as the Saturday Club.
I think churches have and parishes have a few things that can be of great use to the community. The first is often a space. You know, a church hall. Often churches have got some really fantastic, dream stitches, and St. Peter's is quite unique in its two location ability. So St. Peter's has really generously, there's a huge space that Dream Stitches, it's secure, and Dream Stitches really benefits from everything at the St. Aidan's premises. And then we're really grateful for the use of the hall. And I know that the hall is used for play groups. And there's so many things, I think, that, outside of a Sunday time, I feel like there's lots of times where the location, so even just, allowing members of the parish to use that location too, whether it becomes a bit of a drop-in centre at some point in time, or whether there's food relief or just as a location. I think that's allowing the church to be used for something like that. I know there's often insurance and there's a few other things to kind of iron out, but maybe even looking into that and just working out what would make it possible, how access would work, just to facilitate. I think that's one thing that can be really valuable. And then I think sort of on the location point, I think the other thing that often parishes are really rich in is really diverse experiences and parishioners who bring, often there are some really skilled handymen, and there's a lot of things around. And women. So handy people in the congregation who've got some really interesting and abilities that I think are really useful, when we're talking about how to support young people who might be looking for work. If you can pick up some repair work or something at the parish that's maybe supervised by somebody who teaches you a little bit about a skill that's helpful in whether it's some sort of trade or an apprenticeship, that's really fantastic experience on your CV. And then there's also, across the parish, there'll be so many different career pathways and journeys that people have had. And that's all really valuable, I think, to just talk to people about. So even if it's, hosting some sort of a chat to people, you probably have no idea that, Jim and Susan had 4 different careers in their time. So I think some of those things, like tapping into the interesting experiences of people within the congregation, and then also kind of just enabling your church to be a location where things can happen. I think there are a couple of ways.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. And I think, sorry, Deb, what would you like to say?
Yeah, I just want to say, Bishop Genieve, I know that from the work that we've done in the Good Neighbour Project, we often discover that we're helping parishes to discern what they can be doing. Yeah, but we actually want people, I think, to be open to what's there rather than thinking, let's run a playgroup. Well, you might already have 30 playgroups in your suburb, but what you actually need is an afternoon tea group for shut-ins. So it's being open to the stories of your community and actually seeing what you can be part of rather than what you think you should be doing. And they're very different. And when you do, as Katie suggests, you know, you find out the people that have had 4 different careers and the things that they can offer. And just take my BSL hat off for a second, put my parish hat on. I'm in the Macedon Ranges, and at the top end of the Macedon Ranges was this fabulous food bank working in Kyneton, and people who were in need at the bottom end of the Macedon Ranges were going up to the food bank, asking for help, and then saying, oh, and can you give me money for a train ticket because I can't get home again? And so we, as an ecumenical group of churches, came together and said, why can't we offer the southern end of the food bank? And so that's what's been developed over the last 12 months. And that's based in Gisborne at the Uniting Church, but is cared for by the ecumenical churches together. And that's been really listening to the community and finding out what was needed. So I think if we can do some of that and do that discerning rather than just thinking we know what to do, we'll discover a whole new world.
Yeah, thanks, Deb. That's really important with what you said. And what I want to do there is really point to Nick again, Archdeacon for Parish Partnerships. And he is the person to be talking to about the Good Neighbour Project. And that's something that can be a real gift in terms of churches really taking seriously, well, you know, how do we encourage our people? Because even the very process, I think, of being coming together to do that discerning is actually part of the way people will be motivated. I think I would want to add as well, it's telling the story, isn't it? Or getting others to tell the story. So I know that Tom, I know that Deb, I know that Jean, I know that Nick would all come if you invited them to your parish to talk about these sorts of things. And they would do it well. And I also know that Hugh might even wangle and Richard time off their commitments to actually come and talk about these things. So, but you know, that actually is one of Nick's key roles as Archdeacon for Parish Partnerships, is to actually be facilitating parishes in exploring what they can be doing in that space. The other thing, I want to move to you, Tom, now, just because I want to capture, I think it's a related question, but just particularly there's a question here, how best to sell the need for social justice projects, and and I think part of that then also moves on to question 2, how to connect with local council and healthcare to research needs. And I thought that it is asking for the Anglicare and BSL perspective, and I thought, Tom, you might have something to say there that might be valuable in our remaining couple of minutes, and then I'm going to wrap everything up. You're on mute, so quickly unmute yourself.
It's a good question, isn't it? How do you engage with organisations who have a role and responsibility to serve, and how do you encourage them to be different and work with you? I think it's, so my tip is this: never give up. When one person says no or won't find time to speak with you, don't give up. Find somebody else. If you can't find somebody else directly, find somebody that knows somebody. It's unfortunately true that persistence will get you there. You have to be persistent in your desire to find somebody to help you with your cause. And I don't think there's any shortcut other than telling the story passionately, being committed to serving, and asking people for their support. You will find them in the end.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And I think one thing I want to take the time to say is that at the end, we will be sending you out contacts lists. And what I want to say with that is that people often think in terms of the agencies, or they can help with funding and things like that. Well, actually, that's most probably the last thing they'll be able to help you with an ongoing basis. But I hope what you're taking away today is where the agencies can really help is in expertise and those connections to the very, local councils and healthcare and so on, because they're doing it all the time in their work. And so they can really be helping you in finding the answer to that question. Richard, you had your hand up for something you wanted to add to that?
Just wanted to make the to reflect on my engagement with the Burundara Council and also more recently with the Melbourne City Council. I think you can walk into those places with great confidence that they'll hear you. They don't mind if you're a faith leader, or you don't even have to be a faith leader. If you've got something that you want to do that involves the community, that's, in my experience, has been that's what they're looking for, and they'll grab onto you as, be ready to get going on the ride, because they'll be more than happy.
Yeah, and I think what you're bringing out there, Richard, is the importance of being solution focused. And I'm going to lay the cards on the table. I'm on the Anglicare Victoria board, and I'm very proud to be on the Anglicare Victoria board. And partly I'm proud to be on the Anglicare Victoria board because of our wonderful CEO, Paul McDonald. And I think he's very much a model in that. When he relates to government, he is going in there saying, these are the sorts of thoughts and ideas and solutions that we have. And I'm sure that would also be true of the CEOs of BSL and Benetas, but being on the board of Anglicare Victoria, I can actually see that playing out. And I think what you're saying, Richard, is actually we can have a role in that at the local level. So thank you.
You've got an answer to a question that they're asking, even better. I agree.
Yeah. So look, our time is coming to an end. I really want to say thank you for taking part in this webinar. I really want to say thank you to those who have signed up and come. Thank you to those who have been on the panel, and especially also to our presenters. It's made for a very rich conversation, as you can see. And so thank you for all the work that you've put in. I want to say also thank you to Nick and Kathleen, because you've really done a lot of the behind the scenes. So thank you for making it work. And I really hope today that your horizons have been broadened and that you've been inspired regarding social enterprise as faith in action. Today, hopefully, will have given you a taste for the great programs out there run by our agencies, and I hope you do go and explore their websites to find out more. Programs which really can transform the lives of people or people whom your ministry brings you in contact with, and also to provide amazing opportunities for volunteering. And I hope also what you've taken away from today is ideas and thoughts about how the church and the parishes and so on and agencies can be working together, and how important that is, and what each can give to each other. As church, we've already heard some of the things that we can bring. I want to add to that by saying we bring community. We bring community to a lot of the programs, and I think what also the agencies bring for us is expertise. And also, I really hope it is sparking ideas for future social enterprise opportunities that might be achieved. And so we do have, we're going to be sending out this slide and another slide, which gives you the contact details for these key people in the agencies, but also the presenters, so if you want to talk further with them. And we really are hoping that out of this we'll see more and more what we have in common. I think what we have in common is wanting to serve the communities that we're a part of. What we have in common, both church and agency, is wanting to be part of people reaching their full potential for the benefit of everyone, for themselves and for the community. And it's what we have in common, and it's been a great privilege today to be able to facilitate this and for in the way that the diocese, parishes, churches and our agencies, Anglicare, Victoria, Benetas and the Brotherhood of St Laurence have been able to come together and present this webinar. So thank you. And please be assured you are going to receive these slides which give the contact details, and my time says 12:31, so I think we should end.